My bold prediction last year was that Carlos Rodon was going to win 17 games. He won 16. I was very close. I was really angry that he didn't get to 17. I am hoping that Anthony Volpe has a career year.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm Stacey Gotsulias. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Before I get started, don't forget, subscribe to the podcast on whichever podcasting platform you prefer. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, like our videos, hit the bell so you're notified when our videos go live. So coming up on today's show, it's Fan Mail Friday, and I'm doing it by myself, and you guys asked a lot of questions. Now, I will say up front, some of you on YouTube asked some questions that were, and this is no offense to you, it turned out that your questions became redundant because we discussed what you asked because you asked them earlier in the week. So I did not include them. So if you were not included, that is the reason why. And I just wanted to give you all a heads up. If you're new to the show, Fan Mail Friday is something we do every Friday. We have our insiders who go first. They belong to a special club, which I will tell you about before our first break. And every week we start with Betty. So we're going to start with Betty this time. She asks, do you think the Yankees will seriously entertain trading George Lombard Jr. for Arenado? I personally feel we should hang on to Lombard no matter what. I'll bet he can learn third. And combination of Peraza and Cabrera will work there until we figure out the permanent player. We have plenty of infield options. Then she added a PS and said, I wouldn't trade Spencer Jones either. I don't think they will seriously entertain trading Lombard Jr. for Arenado. I think the Arenado ship has sailed. I don't think the Yankees can get him at this point, and I don't think George Lombard Jr. would be the one to go. He is putting on a show in spring training, but I think the Yankees probably want to hold on to him. Thank you for the question, Betty, as usual. Next up, we have David F. He says, if you had to wager everything on one Yankees prospect to succeed and lose the rest via trade, who would it be? Also, of all the catchers, Yankees catchers over the years, which one do you think was the best defender? Ooh. All right. Well, the first part of that question, I'm really not sure. I'm honestly not sure because prospects are so hit and miss, especially with the Yankees. You don't know who's going to be good and who's not going to be good. The guys you think are going to be good aren't good, usually. Sometimes guys surprise you. And I don't want to wager everything. I don't have that much to wager, but I don't want to wager everything. So I'm sorry I really couldn't answer that question, but I really don't even know how to answer that question. And as for the Yankees catchers, I'm trying to think of all the catchers who played, who were good defenders. Well, it wasn't Gary Sanchez. He was trying to get better. He had a good arm. I'll say that. He had a good arm. But yeah, can't really think of one specific Yankees catcher. If you can, do that in the comments. Thank you for the question, David. Both questions. Next question from Ethan Miano. What are your plans in Boston? As someone from the greater Boston area, I always enjoy hearing about what people do when they come to visit. Also, do you think it's worse being a Yankee fan in Boston or a Red Sox fan in New York? I remember always hearing some pretty nasty comments when I wore my Yankees hat around Boston, even as a kid, and I wanted to know if the reverse was true. I can only speak to my experience, but I came here 16 years ago. And I was staying in a hotel in Cambridge, and I answered the door in one of my Yankee jerseys. And the room service guy legit looked terrified and said, "You're not wearing that out in public, are you?" I said, No. I know just to wear it in here. He's like, okay, I just wanted to make sure. So this is going to sound really silly. I don't usually do that much when I come here. I'll walk around and stuff. I don't have specific things that I want to do. The reason I sometimes come to Boston is because I like taking longish train trips, and Amtrak is what, 4.5 hours? And I like just hanging out in a hotel room and doing whatever I want and coming and going as I please. And I'm familiar with Boston because I've been here a bunch of times. I'm thinking maybe my next trip might be DC and go in the opposite direction because I haven't been to DC in a really long time, and I think that could be fun. So I don't really do that much. You know, I will say I'm amazed by how much the Seaport district was built in the past 10, 15 years because there was literally nothing in Seaport. It was all parking lots and piers and the occasional building and factory. A long time ago in 1998, I was seeing a guy who lived in Southie, and he took me to Anthony's on the pier. I think that's what it was called. It was like a famous restaurant, and it was here for a really long time. And they got rid of it. So there's no trace of it, but I remember how desolate the Seaport area was when we went to Anthony's. So thank you for that question, Ethan. Next up, Eric S. What player will have a career year? My bold prediction last year was that Carlos Rodon was going to win 17 games. He won 16. I was very close. I was really angry that he didn't get to 17. I am hoping that Anthony Volpe has a career year. I would like to see the average up. You know, I wouldn't mind seeing some pop in his bat, but I would prefer for him to be the type of player who just hits, gets on base, and wreaks havoc on the base paths. That's so I'll say Anthony Volpe. Hopefully I'm right. But thank you for that question, Eric S. Ruben asks, do you think Lombard Jr. makes it to the majors faster than Spencer Jones? I don't think so. I know there's a lot of discussion. I know Brian was talking about Lombard Jr. on yesterday's show. I think because he's in high A right now. So in order for him to make the Yankees, something really bad has to happen. I don't think they're going to pick a kid who's turning 20 in June to play third over Oswald Peraza and Oswaldo Cabrera at this point. As for Spencer Jones, he's higher in the system than Lombard Jr. And I think realistically, the numbers that we spoke about earlier in the week, where it said Lombard Jr. was 2027, and Brian and I agreed that it could be fall of 2026, fall, September of 2026, he could be called up as early as that. I think that's what's going to happen. I don't think he's going to beat Spencer Jones to the majors, but I've been wrong before. So, we'll see what happens. But my gut feeling is Spencer Jones will make it up before George Lombard Jr. Thank you for the question, Ruben. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, hit the notification so you know when our videos go up. And if you would like to be part of next week's Fan Mail Friday, post a reply underneath the pinned comment on our videos Monday through Thursday. You can ask us anything, or you can join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club, where you get top priority and your questions are answered in segment 1, but sometimes segment 2. We had a bunch of questions from the insiders, so you'll see that in segment 2. There's a 14-day free trial with the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club, and it isn't only for Fan Mail Friday. You'll get texts from us with news and roster moves, trades, all that stuff, so you don't have to check social media. Coming up next, we have more Fan Mail Friday questions from our insiders. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. FanDuel's live betting feature can make every moment of the game exciting. So whether you're waiting for your team to make a late game rally or you want to pick a player to hit a clutch three, you never miss your chance. And the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, so we have more insider questions. This one is from Tim. He says, it's been a few weeks since the facial hair policy was amended. Have we seen any progress? The other day, it was Yendrys Gomez, the reliever. It was very strange seeing someone on the mound with a Yankee hat and a Yankee uniform on with a beard growing in. Wasn't fully in, but it was enough, it wasn't a 5 o'clock shadow. It was way more than that. And it was jarring. I have to admit it was jarring. But I see most of the guys who, I don't know, I really thought more guys were going to grow facial hair, but I think a bunch of them are just so used to not doing it that they're not doing it, if that makes sense. Like maybe it feels strange to them to do it. I don't know. I'm trying to think of people I want to see try and grow facial hair. Like, do you think Anthony Volpe can grow facial hair? I don't know. He's such a baby face. I don't think he can. I don't think he can. And I liked Cole's answer when he said he was kind of afraid to see gray hairs popping in. I understand that, Garrett. I understand that very well. Thank you for that question, Tim. Next question is from Debbie. Do you know if the Yankees have reached out to Brett Gardner to work with Dominguez? He was one of my favorite players. Always felt he was underrated and underappreciated, though certainly proved he was really good there, as we've seen what happened there after him, unfortunately. Yeah, left field has been a disaster since Brett Gardner was pushed out of being a Yankee. I don't think Brett Gardner would. No. There was some bad blood between Gardner and the Yankees, and I know that I think there was a statement that said that there wasn't, but I don't believe that for a second. I think he was hurt by them pushing him out, and I would be hurt too. Brett Gardner was a good Yankee. He wasn't a superstar, but he had some big moments. And, goodness, the Let Brett Bang thing from 2019 was huge, but I don't think so. And it's funny that you asked that, Debbie, because I was actually thinking about that. And I was thinking about how if I were the Yankees, I would reach out to Brett Gardner and be like, dude, could you help us? Because he would be the perfect guy to help. Because as you said, left field has been an absolute disaster. And it's funny, too, because you think about the guys who started out in the infield, who went out to the outfield, like Chuck Knobloch, there were other guys that I can't think of off the top of my head, but back in the day, and when I say back in the day, I mean the late 90s, early 2000s, you had a few guys who went from the infield to the outfield. And it's just unbelievable to me that Dominguez, who supposedly plays a good center field, can't adapt to left field. It's like he doesn't know how to play the outfield. So were people lying to us when they said he was good in the outfield? Because it's possible, I guess. I don't know. It's just really strange, but something needs to be done now. Because at first, I know you're going to say in the comments, Stacy, you were saying give him a chance. Yeah, I know I was, but it doesn't look like he's improving. And that's a problem because opening day is in 20 days. That's not enough time for him to, it might not be enough time for him to turn things around. We'll see. But no, I don't see Brett Gardner doing that. But again, I wish he would. Thank you for the question, Debbie. Next, Lauren asks, what baseball movie would you recommend to someone who's newly interested in the sport? Okay, I've been thinking about this since I made the graphic for the show because I did that a few hours before I started recording. I'm not into, overly sappy movies like Field of Dreams. I watched it once from beginning to end and I thought, oh, okay. And yeah, I cried. Can we have a catch? Yeah, all right. I admit I cried. I like funny baseball movies. I like Bull Durham. I like Major League. I loved Little Big League. I loved Angels in the Outfield. Like I love movies like that. Bad News Bears. A League of Their Own. That's a good one. I think a league of their own, just to show the history of women's baseball. I think Major League, because it's funny, and I think new fans should watch that. And I also think maybe Take Me Out to the Ball Game, the old movie with Gene Kelly. I think maybe people should watch that. Yeah, those are my suggestions. Thank you for the question, Lauren. And our final insider question comes from Casey. What is the highlight of your career? I have a few, but I think the main one was back in 2014. Someone reached out to me about helping out with a Derek Jeter commemorative magazine. I'd never written in a magazine. I'd only written on blogs and websites at that point. And I thought, wow, this would be something. And I wrote 6 articles for the magazine. 5 of them made it in. And the one article I wrote basically led off the magazine. So when you open it and you go past the ads, like the first big story was me, and my byline was there in big bold letters. And my dad got to see that before he died. And he had plans to make a collage with the pages of my articles, and he had a whole idea for a big wooden frame. His friend was going to make it and this and that, and it never got done because he passed away. But he saw the magazine, and that was probably the biggest highlight of my career. The second one was earlier that same year. I wrote for a blog that was part of the Sweet Spot network, blog network on ESPN, and a few of us would take weekend shifts and write about baseball. And the first time I had a shift, Ryan Braun was swinging his bat behind his head, like twirling it behind his head, and he hit Gene Segura in the head, and that was the main story that night. So I wrote an article about it, and I brought my laptop over to my dad the next morning, and I showed him our last name on ESPN's website, and he was very excited about that. So those are the 2 highlights, because before I went to college, or before I transferred schools, because my original major was performing arts, and then I switched to broadcasting, I was obsessed with ESPN. So the fact that my name was on ESPN's website, and I was considered an expert, and they would do the rankings every week, and I would write the Yankees blurb every week. That's definitely a highlight of my career. So thank you for the question, Casey. And that's it for the insiders. And we have one YouTube question to close out this segment, and we have a ton in segment 3. Nice job by you guys. This comes from Raymond Segalini, 2893. I hope I said your name right. He asks, what do you guys think is going to happen to poor old Alex Verdugo? I kind of feel bad for him, LOL. Yeah, it's not just Verdugo. There are other guys who are just waiting out there, waiting for someone to call them and be like, hey, man, you want to play? I'm not too shocked that Verdugo wasn't called by anyone, but I'm also afraid that the Yankees might, like desperate measure, call him up and be like, okay, you can come back and play left field because Dominguez is actually worse than you. That would be bad. Let's hope that doesn't happen. But I don't know. I mean, and the thing about it is we talk about it all the time. These guys need spring training. So if you're not signed until April, you're really not going to be ready until at least mid-May, possibly the beginning of June. So we'll see if someone signs him at some point. Hopefully it's not the Yankees. No offense, but hopefully it's not the Yankees. So coming up next, the questions that you so kindly left under our pinned comments on YouTube, and a couple of you who didn't leave them under the pinned comment, but I did find them. I'm going to answer them next. So here we are, YouTube questions. First one from It's Over. And there's other letters, but I like the fact that it's over. If Volpe reached the majors by playing less games in the minor leagues, why not give Lombard Jr. the same? Give him a chance to prove himself to be in the majors. Give him the challenge if he's ready to take the third base job. It's a lot to ask a 19, soon to be 20-year-old to come up to the majors when his highest level is high A. And, we talk about it all the time. Like, yes, it's good that he's doing good in spring training, but there are always those guys who do really well in spring training. And then once the regular season begins, they turn into pumpkins. So I think the Yankees need to send him down to the minors because that's the logical path for him. See how he does, see how quickly he moves through the system. Because, hey, if he keeps hitting the way he's hitting, he will move up from high A to double A, and maybe he'll make it to triple A. So you got to do it that way. You can't just thrust this kid into the major leagues. Plus, Oswald Peraza doesn't have an option. So, unless they're going to trade him or put him on waivers and lose him, I think they need to take it easy with George Lombard Jr. But thank you for the question. The next one is from Han J 21. Hey, Stacy and Brian, listening from Scotland. That's another Scotland person. That's awesome. None of my friends at school have ever watched baseball, so you keep me up to date on all things Yankees. Coming to New York in April for my first Yankees game. Any things I should know before coming? Restaurants, food to eat? Thanks. Love the show. I've never been to NYY Steak. I never went to the Hard Rock Cafe either. The only restaurant that I was in Yankee Stadium was when I went to opening day 09 and opening day of the new stadium. And I had a legend seat. So I was in that restaurant and the food was really good. I will admit that. I think if you're coming here from a different country and you want to experience a baseball game, I think you should get the old baseball staples. So like hot dog, soda, or hot dog and beer, maybe French fries, maybe chicken fingers, maybe fries with cheese sauce, like stuff like that. Don't do the fancy stuff. You're going to a ball game. Like, take it in and do it that way. I think that would be good to do. But if you want the fancy stuff, get the steak sandwich, get the I think they have sushi, right? I don't eat sushi, but I think they have stuff like that. But yeah, there's a lot of options. So if you don't want to take my advice, there's plenty of stuff that you can eat. But I hope you have a good time and I hope they win for you. That's fantastic. I love that we have European listeners. I love that you guys are so into baseball when, that's not a natural thing for you to be into. It's kind of like me being into European soccer. It's not that natural, but it happens. But thank you for that question. Next, a long one from Evan Macbeth 9551. Finally doing this question correctly. Would you give Anthony Volpe today the same contract the Diamondbacks gave Perdomo? While Perdomo has been a better player offensively, it is only at the margins. The two players have the same WAR, 6.7, and practically the same OPS and OPS plus. Furthermore, Volpe is slightly younger and better defensively. $45 million for 4 years, stability at shortstop while third base is in flux feels like a steal. Follow-up question. Given the Yankees' aggressiveness when it comes to managing players' salaries while they're under team control, see Dellin Betances, do you think there's any chance the Yankees would offer Volpe a contract before he hits free agency? I'll admit I'm really bad at this stuff. Talking about contracts and talking about how team control works, it's not my forte. I will admit that right away. I mean, I don't think 4 years, $45 million is that out of the realm of possibility for Volpe. But like I said earlier in the show, I think he has a chance to have a really good year this year. And I know there's some people in the comments on one of the shows where we were talking about the Volpe, that he's had enough of a chance and maybe they should, put someone else at shortstop. He's still so young. He's still so young. There's still time for him to develop as a hitter. I think people are giving up on him too early. Not everyone is Derek Jeter. Not everyone is going to come up and be as good as Derek Jeter was. Derek Jeter was like a veteran not when he first came up, because he first came up in 95, but his first full year in 96, you would have thought that Derek Jeter had been on the Yankees for 15 years. And not everyone is like that. But I agree with, all the points you made where Volpe and Perdomo are very similar and it would be a good contract. I don't know how the Yankees would feel about that. And yeah, Dellin Betances, I've spoken about this many times, but when he was in arbitration and Randy Levine trashed him, that just bothered me so much. I know it bothered him, but I know it bothered me so much. I thought it was mean-spirited, but that's how arbitration goes. But thank you for that question, Evan. And I'm sorry if I didn't really answer it that well. Next question is from Real Bouge SB. I think that's how you say it. Or is it Real Boogie SB? If I'm saying it wrong, I apologize. They ask, I really enjoy the show. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you. What are your thoughts on Goldschmidt leading off? Here are my reasons. He's number 18 for pitches per plate appearance in 2024. Aaron Boone's Yankees were dead last in steals and 12 of 15 for base running in the AL. Glaber showed that working the pitcher and allowing Judge to see pitches before his at-bat was a good recipe for success. That is true. It is really good when you have a guy at the top who sees a lot of pitches, and it does help the guy behind him. I mean, it's not a terrible idea, but I really think the Yankees just need to see who does the best in the leadoff spot. I really wish Anthony Volpe, this is turning into an Anthony Volpe show, but I really wish Anthony Volpe could develop into the kind of leadoff hitter where he gets on base, he immediately steals the base, he sets up an RBI chance for the batter behind him. I just really want him to be the guy. I do. Nothing against Goldschmidt. And that wouldn't be a bad idea. But personally, I just wish that Volpe would be that guy. I really do. And again, I think it's too early to give up on him. I'm so sorry. I keep adjusting my AirPods because they don't fit in my ears. Do they fit in anyone's ears? Answer below, because I feel like everyone has problems with their AirPods because they're not made for everyone. We don't all have the same ear holes, Apple. Okay, enough of that rant. Next question, Rivka Meiselman, 3375. Fan Mail Friday question for Stacy. When the Yankees are not on, I sometimes flip through other spring training games. I've noticed that across the league, there are many, many errors committed, and especially in left field. Have you noticed that left field is somehow booby-trapped? How are the players, besides Alex Verdugo, who are actually natural in that? Who are the players besides Alex Verdugo who are actually natural in that haunted environment? Thanks for your great reporting. I will admit I don't watch other spring training games. I nearly put on, I think it was the Dodgers and the Padres the other day, and then I got distracted and forgot to put it on. So I haven't noticed how left field is, dead man walking land for everyone else. But I think that's kind of funny. Why is left field such a problem? Because if you notice, if you've ever played softball, they usually put the person who they think is not going to be the one that gets all the hits to them in right field. Years ago, my friend was working at a company and I went to her softball game and they needed an extra player and I was there and I was ready. So I said, fine, I'll do it. They put me in right field and they're like, don't worry, no one's going to hit it to you. The first batter hit the ball to me. Thank God it was, a ground ball that made it through between the first baseman and the second baseman. It wasn't a fly ball, but I feel like right field is the position where it feels easier for people, and left field, I don't know why. I really don't. I wish someone who had a better understanding of playing the outfield, or maybe someone who is better at looking at the metrics, can explain why left field is such a problem for people. Because it doesn't only seem like a Yankee problem. Left field does kind of feel like one of those positions that people just can't do for some reason. But thank you for that question. I don't know if I answered it, but thank you for that question. And finally, Thomas Crowley asks, what's your favorite Yankees commercial? I have an answer for you, Thomas. I have an answer for you. Do you remember all those years ago, back in the late 90s, when Adidas had all those cool Yankees commercials like, what the hell is Ansky? I love that one. But I really love the one I'm about to play. I also hope I don't get in trouble for playing it, but here you go.
What's this dance called?
It's the El Duque.
Hey, Connie, why don't you have a dance?
Do you know that my dad would walk around asking, "Hey, Coney, why don't you have a dance?" for years after that commercial aired. So that's my favorite Yankees commercial. Going back to the dynasty days, because those Adidas commercials were really great. But that's just the whole club environment, Cone and his acting, pretty funny. Yeah, that's my favorite. That's my favorite Yankees commercial. So thank you guys for making this solo Fan Mail Friday not so difficult for me. You guys asked a lot of questions. And again, if you left a question on YouTube and you weren't answered, it's because we probably talked about what you asked about, and I felt like the questions would be redundant. So thank you for leaving all those questions, and thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On Fantasy Baseball with hosts Dominic Martino and Matthew Ane. MLB fantasy draft season is here. Be the most informed fan and set yourself up for a league win. Find Locked On Fantasy Baseball on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. So that's going to do it for this Fan Mail Friday edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gotsulias, and Brian and I will see you next week.